salute?
Certainly.
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay, well, we could start. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're on.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sunshine Law Statement. All requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the record in Town News and all persons requesting such notice. Mr. Darian, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School District is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Needham, Mr. Griffin,
Here?
Mrs. Levy,
Here.
Mrs. Noyan,
Here.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Here.
Mrs. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Walsh,
Here.
Mr. Darian,
Here.
Mrs. Nichols.
Here, open to the public for agenda items only at this time. If you are joining us on Zoom, just please raise your digital hand. Rami, would you please unmute Kristen? Did we lose her? She gone? Say that again? Okay. She's, hold on. Why is she in as a panelist?
Sorry?
Why is she in as a panelist?
In order to allow video, we promote somebody to panelist and then when
Okay.
they come talking.
Okay. Kristen?
Demoted.
We can't hear you. You're muted.
Right. I'm willing to let that was a mistake.
Okay. Okay, moving forward, we'll go to the superintendent's report.
First of all, I'd like to thank all the families that have followed our quarantining procedures after traveling during the February break. And I'd also like to thank those who have been diligent about reporting close contact exposure and following the appropriate protocols. If we continue to stay diligent, this will allow us to plan for the next steps in increasing on-site learning for our grades 3 through 6. In regard to upcoming scheduling changes, we are currently collecting data on students that are transitioning from full remote to our hybrid schedule. With the help of our school pandemic response team, which will be meeting shortly, our plan is to remove the virtual Wednesday during the month of March, and our next step will be to look at increasing the length of the on-site day in grades 3 through 6. More details and specifics will be forthcoming from Ms. Bozius. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else for your report? That's it. Business administrator's report?
Just a quick thing that I'd like to point out is similar to the CARES Act funding that we got at the beginning of this year. It looks like we're going to be getting a second round of federal funding called the ESSER grant. As more information is available, I'll be passing that along to you, and the application and allocation should be coming out shortly.
Thank you. Move to minutes. We have a review of February 10th and January 28th. Any questions or comments, please email Mr. Marmora. We have approval of the January 20th meetings. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the January 20th meeting.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Noyan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Abstain.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, administrative items. Would you take that, Mr. Darian?
Yes, I would like to introduce items A1, which is the acceptance of, not approval, but we're just accepting the HIB report, and A2, which is the approval of the school calendar.
The school
I'll
calendar,
second it.
the school calendar was emailed to everybody today, and there's a copy in your folder. Any questions, Mrs. Levy?
Can we, just a point of, if we didn't get the correct copies, can we still approve the acceptance of it, of the HIB?
I think so, because what's missing?
There was a page missing from the back of it.
We're just accepting them, and we're going to get them later, right? We're going to get them, yeah.
Okay, just
We're not,
wanted to
we're
make
not
sure.
approving it, so.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin, Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Noyan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, buildings and grounds, Mr. Darian?
Yes, I have nothing to report from our subcommittee meetings. And with that, I'd like to introduce items B1 for facility use.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Noyan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, curriculum, Mrs. Norian?
Yes. At the last meeting, I had said that we were trying to get a meeting together. That was not successful, but it looks like we may be able to do it in the week coming up. The committee will hear from the board office on the date and time, and we'll move forward.
Thank you. Finance, technology, Mrs. Shapiro?
Our committee met on Monday evening. We continue to review the budget for next year. We're awaiting some clarification on some numbers, so we will meet again on Monday and probably a couple more times to get everything ready for the submission in March. This evening, I'd like to make a motion to approve items D1 through D6.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Noyan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes, delegate report, Mr. Walsh?
I have a legislative meeting March 6th, virtual meeting.
Are you voting on any resolutions that you know of?
No resolutions, no votes. I'll let you know what went on at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Personnel, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to present F1.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
Mrs. Levy,
Yes.
Mrs. Noyan,
Yes.
Mrs. Shapiro,
Yes.
Mrs. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Darian,
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols.
Yes. Policy, Mrs. Levy?
Nothing to report.
Public relations, Mr. Griffin?
Nothing to report.
COVID task force?
Our next meeting is at the beginning of the month, so we'll have another.
You'll send an email to remind us? I thought we
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
You'll send an email.
I'll send an email.
At this time, we will open to the public. If you are joining us digitally, please raise your digital hand. Okay, not seeing any, we'll move forward to old or new business. Mrs. Walker?
This is just, I guess, new business in that I wanted to thank Mr. Momoro for his prompt response to me. And for my fellow board members, if you haven't signed up for your training, those of you that have been newly elected, I reached out to Mr. Momoro the other morning, and within 2 hours, he came up a response to my email with 3 different dates that I could take it online. So I appreciate that, Mr. Momoro. I'm going to be taking my training Thursday night.
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Hope you pass.
A fun week. So I thank you. And the other second thing, I just have to give kudos to all of the teachers. One of my student teachers invited me to join her class via Zoom, a second grade class in Bergenfield. And I actually participated in the whole lesson that she was teaching. And the patience and trying to keep all these little ones engaged is just amazing. And I think we don't realize at home, and maybe some of you parents who see what's going on, I don't, and you just say, well, it's a Zoom, but what are they, 7 years old? And some were spinning in their chair after about 10 minutes of a lesson, the way she kept them all engaged. And then she invited me to go to the breakout room, and I joined them in the breakout room also. So, and all the different parts that have to go together for one lesson is something, they make it look easy, or we just hear about it and we don't realize. So again, I have to say thank you to all of our teachers, and they're doing here such a great job.
Mrs. Norian?
Can I just kind of segue off of that? Because I really appreciate the teachers and what they've gone through. I don't know, all of you may not know, but I work as a trainer for New Jersey school boards, and they are attempting their first virtual new school board member training, replacing the weekend with the training. And so we've been working on trying to put it together and using Canvas and all of this stuff. And I got to tell you, it instilled a great deal of respect for the teachers when I saw all the things that I have to learn to do in order to do this training in the next week.
Any other old or new business? Mr. Griffin? Oh. All right. Do we have any reason to go into a closed session, anybody?
Don't think so.
All right.
So move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? All right.
Hi.
A new land speed record.